All right, on to my views of Emmanuel College. Obviously, I'm rather unhappy that I was let go. They're paying me through the end of the semester, which is largely irrelevant as the semester's over in a week and a half. I think it's tremendously unfair to my students who basically don't have the opportunity to take a final. The school is using my grades, apparently. They may think I'm some kind of nuthatch, but not enough to actually have to figure out another way of grading. Hmm. Um, I bumped up all the grades a bit because they're not taking a final. I bumped up the grades a bit because they aren't able to do the last research project. I still don't really think it's fair to the students, A, that the course is cut short, 5 sessions short, and B, that the grades are affected by this. They paid for a full course, they're not getting one. Um, so that's my view for my students. My view for the college itself, well, there's what I'd like to call a new sort of prissiness in the country. Some people like to put this at the feet of liberals, and some people like to put it at the feet of conservatives, but I put it in its own category of prissiness. Prissy behavior is behavior that is afraid of being outrageous, being outlandish, being seen as foolish, afraid of laughter, afraid of dialogue, afraid of acting, afraid of passion. Um, you know, you you could say it's like a waspy thing, but I don't like the sort of cultural or ethnographic representations that brings with it. I'm a somewhat outspoken and loudly spoken professor. Ironically, the Virginia Tech thing, I would say, is one of the least controversial things I've talked about. I've talked about pension funding for major auto companies. I've talked about Sarbanes-Oxley. I've talked about depreciation schedules, waste management, things that really are more controversial issues, at least in the long run. Um, the college, I'm still not sure who fired me. There was no due process at all. They did not follow any of their own rules. And in fact, they didn't talk to me. They didn't talk to my class. They apparently talked to 2 students. I'm not entirely sure who complained. I have a sense that it's a student who was failing the class, who never showed up for class, who I think has failed the class before. I don't know that. It's my own sense. It's irrelevant, really. Um, but no due process whatsoever. No attempt to contact me. Letters were couriered to a mailing address. You know, and no discussion, no peer review, no faculty involvement. Absolutely no discussion whatsoever. Basically, I discussed 2 unpopular ideas, that gun control might not be a panacea, and that 3 ideas, I guess, that um, fighting when you are confronted with violence is probably a good idea, and and thirdly that this strange eulogizing of these students is in its own way very sick, very pathetic. We've turned this idiot gunman, frankly, into a kind of hero or anti-hero. We've basically taught all of society that if you'd like to be famous, go kill a lot of people, and we'll make you famous. We'll air your videos. It's insane. It's pathetic. It's sick. I didn't do the prissy, I won't categorize it as liberal, hand-wringing self-victimization, self-pity. Students are afraid all across the country. Why? Why are they afraid? They can get shot at a convenience store. They can get hit by a car. Should they be afraid of that? Female students can and do get raped. Should we teach everyone to be afraid? So, I'm somewhat disappointed with Emmanuel College. I don't see this as really the end of this issue. Obviously, I'm going to pursue, every public and legal means to combat what I see as just a crushing of the rights of free speech. To be honest, I'm not a Catholic, but certainly this diocese has had tremendous problems, both with the cover-up of abuse of the molestation of children, with the selling of parishes out from Congress. I don't want to go in that direction because it winds up sounding like some kind of anti-Catholic diatribe. But this diocese really has organizational issues. I guess to sum up, whenever a college feels that without any process, without any discussion, I was fired by letter, um, by human resources, not by my own department, that if someone says something they don't like, they can get rid of them. That's basically the end of the university system. To me, the message this sends to every professor at Emmanuel College is don't ever say anything controversial because you will be fired. And it's not a tenure school. A couple of departments have tenure. I believe most don't. Mine doesn't, obviously. Um, the message it sends to the students is don't say anything, controversial or dangerous because, we'll get rid of you. So that's my take on the whole thing. This is starting to hit the airwaves. The Boston Herald article, considering that it's a newspaper that's very pro-gun control, I think the article was somewhat balanced. It certainly could have made me look nuts, and I don't think it did. But this is starting to go out on the waves, and I thought that an explanation was the best way to deal with it. So thank you for listening.